This video is a bit different to usual and it's also a bit longer, so maybe go and grab a drink and get comfortable. Today I'm joined with one of my favourite contemporary photographers, Jack Latham, who shoots long-form photo series that tell stories. You may recognise his name from one of my previous videos where I showed off his book Sugar Paper Theories, so I was pretty excited to be able to travel down to Brighton to have a chat with Jack about photography.
My name's Jack Latham. I'm a photographer based in Brighton. Primarily I make long-form documentary projects that end up in books and exhibitions.
Genres of photography is something that I struggle with. Everyone knows a portrait photographer, everyone knows a landscape photographer. For people who watch this and maybe aren't necessarily as into art or that kind of world of books and exhibitions, what is documentary photography or the stuff you do?
I think the title of fine art photographer or documentary photographer is something I struggle with quite a lot, to be honest. I'm not from a very arty family, and my father was an actor when I was growing up, and so the thing which I kind of grew up with is storytelling, like different ways of telling stories. And so as opposed to calling myself a documentary photographer or a fine art photographer, I kind of call myself more of someone that's trying to relay stories through photographs and books. I think it's a necessity for other people to kind of not pigeonhole you, but put you in a category so that you're quantifiable. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm interested in certain subjects, and I try to tell that using the subjectivity of photography. So whether that makes me a fine art photographer or a documentary photographer, it's whatever you're feeling that day, I guess.
I guess with this being a film photography YouTube channel, as much as I think it's not, with the kind of work you do for exhibitions and books, it's not about the gear or the process, I think people will be interested in that. So I would love to hear about why you shoot film in a modern day.
I came to photography quite late. I say quite late. In 2009 is when I started to take pictures, and we're from that generation of being around before the internet, and now we live in a post-internet world where everything's digital and instantaneous. And I think there's a real beauty, I think, in when you take a photograph and there's a chemical reaction and it's silver reacting to light, and you're creating something real, not ones and zeros, in a world that is so continuously moving to be faster and faster and faster, to actually slow down and look around and to create something physical, I think I think that in its own is the main reason why I shoot on film. And so primarily the camera I use is a 10x8 large format camera, which for me at least it's a great hybrid between quality and patience. I think I'm guilty of rushing myself through things sometimes, and having working with a tripod and such a cumbersome camera it's quite liberating to actually just slow down. And I think that goes back to my previous point about shooting on film anyways. It's nice to be patient and to actually really look at the moment you're trying to document, and use a very kind of primitive form of photography to do that, and how everything syncs up, I think is the main reason I fell in love with photography. And I think for me anyway, it's that's the reason I shoot on that camera. There we go. It's a camera for you. So for the top, could you just stand where I am, just by here? Okay. So just if you just stare at this now. There we go. Happy days.
You said that you're a long-term or
Long
long-form body of work photographer, which is something that I always think I'd like to do, but always seem to give up and make really quick things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very impatient. I have Amazon Prime. How do you manage to work like that? What's it like to shoot over the course of years? And
that's a nice question. I fully believe that, when people let you into their lives to let you photograph them, you need to treat them with, the same amount of respect and trust. And I think I've never been a fan of flying in, anywhere and taking some pictures and then leaving. I think that my best work is made when I have real connections with people that mean something. And so for me, long form documentary storytelling work it's just that. It's allowing me to get into the right headspace of what the project is, what the subject is about, and meeting the people and actually letting them become a part of my life and me becoming a part of theirs. And I think you tell a lot less of an objective story, which I think makes for better storytelling.
That made it seem really easy, I guess.
Yeah.
What you just said.
Okay,
I like that as a statement. But what I mean is, what I think I would find hard. So I started photographing something that is long term, and no one apart from 3 people has seen any of the images which I shot, and it's like 20 images or something now, which were mostly taken on 5.4, which obviously took quite a long time. How do you shoot it without showing people, or how do you, what does the rest of your time look like? Is it spent working away to be able to afford that 1 month away to shoot and then come back at a later point, or is it...
Sure. So, I think I'm guilty of it with my first big body of work. I kept showing people prematurely.
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of the wrong thing to do. That we say it's like bringing cookie dough to a cake sale. It's just not ready to be seen, and when it does eventually get seen by people, you want it to be complete. And a part of that was when I was making a Pink Flamingo, I was working full time in an office job, and I'd be working for 11 months, and then the 12th month I'd take all of my holiday, and then I'd go to America and I'd make the work. And so every time I got back, I'd be really excited, so I'd want to show my friends and put it on my website. And I was a lot more disciplined with Sugar Paper Theories, where I kept it as kind of close to my chest as I could. And even then, I did talks while I was still making the work, and I spoke about the work. But in terms of online, there was very limited, coverage of it. And that for me was really important, because then when the book came out, people kind of just went, oh my God, oh wow, this is, or maybe they did, but this is what the project's about. And it kind of, they see it in its final form.
Yeah.
As opposed to drafts, which I think kind of just... I know, there's also an argument to be made that, we live in a world where, we're scrolling through Twitter and Instagram so quickly. If people keep seeing draft after draft after draft, they'll become so familiar with the work that when you think it's finally finished, it won't have the same impact you originally wanted it to have.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's the counter argument there that when people see and piece together parts, if you share them when they come out, that they almost feel like they were part of the journey and it becoming done.
Yeah, I guess that is fair to say, but it depends what you want to show. I think of it. I always compare it to comedians. Photography is like comedy in a way. You spend a huge amount of time making your hour of stand up, and then you film it, and then you put it out, and then people either like it or they don't. But they never put out the thing that you can see them perform it and refine it and stuff, and that is an interesting thing. But the thing that people remember is always the final. product. I mean, I just think with the work I make, it's so long form. It spans years, and I just think that if I just kept doing kept seeing the same pictures or little updates, yeah, I think it does kind of keep interest ticking over. But for me, at least, it's not. I don't want people to see the drafts. I want people to see what I imagine the project to be and how the book was. But yeah, there's no right or wrong way to do anything in how you present your work. It's just how I've decided to present mine.
So I've made a few publications myself now, all self-published, and I've always kind of had the wonder of what actually having someone else publish my work would be like, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this haven't done either, or would definitely be interested in both. What has been your experiences of doing both?
So yeah, I have 2 books out. The first one, A Pink Flamingo, is a self-published book that I released in 2015, and that was primarily funded through prize money I got from having an exhibition with a group of people, and I won Best in Show, and I got about $5,000 for that. And I was still quite a bit short if I wanted to print it on a press, and so I did pre-orders with an incentive of, it came with a kind of a scratch card, which is quite relevant to the project, and then I put that out at the end of 2015, October 2015, and then 2 months later, I was awarded the Bartor Award at the Photographers Gallery, which is a prize for £20,000 to publish a book with a publisher, and that was for my most recent body of work, Sugar Paper Theories. So within a space of a year, I did A Pink Flamingo and Sugar Paper Theories, and the latter was it was amazing working with a professional. Self-publishing there's a real art to it, and it's a real labour of love. Sometimes it can really feel like climbing Mount Everest. Yeah. But working with a small independent publisher like Here Press was invaluable, really, and having an institution like the Photographers Gallery behind you for the support was just it was great. And they handled all of the stresses that I hated about self-publishing, which is kind of distribution and press, and those are the things that really kind of got me down with the Pink Flamingo. But you don't have as much control of it as you did with self-publishing. So there's pros and cons. So this is my garage. It's kind of where I spend most of my mornings. It's kind of decorated like this at the moment because we had an exhibition of Sugar Paper Theories back in October, and we kind of set it up like it was a conspiracy theorist's den, and me and the writer did a small talk, kind of an interactive exhibition. But it's really where I kind of manage my shop on my website, and where I do all my book sales, and you'll see there's a bunch of books up there of my first book in Sugar Paper Theories, and it's also where I keep old exhibitions gone by.
So as well as self-publishing a book, you also print yourself, which I think is pretty cool, and something I'd like to try at some point. So why don't you tell us about what it's like?
So because I primarily shoot on film, and then that's obviously an analog process, my output is completely digital. So I scan everything on this scanner here and edit everything on this computer, and then eventually when things are ready, I'll print them myself on the printer next to you. And what that allows me to do is really have complete control and reproduce the image that I saw when first making the picture. I get all the benefits of shooting on film, the dynamic range and the quality, but I also get to maximize the printing side of it through using G-Clay prints and scanning on scanning on modern scanners.
Cool.
So I made the jump from C types to G clays in 2015, and largely that was out of frustration of paying so much for C types. I was given a bit of money from a gallery to have a show, and when I started getting quotes back from printers, it was the show I wanted to put on was I wasn't able to have the show that I wanted. So instead, I started leasing this printer, and charging myself a lot less to use it. And after a while, we decided to kind of open that up to the public, and that kind of became Dive Bar. But yeah, so that's kind of how the printer ended up being.
I think it'd be a good point to leave on if you could give some words of wisdom or advice to some people who are looking to do a similar thing that you do, whether it's feeling lost about entering competitions to get your work seen or how to take the next steps in making a book. If you were watching a video and you wanted to get into all these things, what do you think would have helped you?
I think the biggest thing that has helped my career most is to be social, is to meet other photographers and go to events. I'm fortunate enough that I was part of Mini Click here in Brighton, which run free monthly events for photographers, with free photography lectures. And going to those every month it was an invaluable resource, or it is an invaluable resource. But it's not just for listening to people, but also to interact with your peers. I think photography has a real potential of being a very sad and lonely place to be, because it's just you and your vision of the world. But by interacting with others and sharing ideas, I think you educate yourself and them sevenfold. So definitely embrace the community as much as possible. It's an exciting place to be, and people are always making great work. And don't be disparaged if other people seem to be doing better than you on social medias or just in general, because it's not a race. It's a marathon. The one thing that kind of connects everybody is a mutual love for photography, and that's the main thing that you should be focusing on. It's your love for photography, not where you are in your career.